afternoon, we'll be talking with Eileen Wacker, award-winning author of the Fujimini Adventure. I keep calling it Fujimini Island because that's your Twitter handle. The Fujimini Adventure series, and there's 3 titles in the book: Red Penguin and the Missing Sushi, Green Hamster and the Quest for Fun. I love those. You guys are so cute.
I love that.
And Silent Samurai and the Magnificent Rescue. Aloha, I guess is what I should be saying.
Aloha, yes, I live in Honolulu now.
I know. We were thinking about who came the farthest, and you won by far as our award-winning author with the longest travel.
It was a long trip, but well worth it. I'm really happy to be here.
Good. Well, as you can hear from all the noise around us, it's been quite a good start to the show.
It's very successful and very crowded here.
Yeah, you ran out of books this morning, signing.
I ran out of books. I was quite surprised because you always have that little bit of doubt that maybe no one will take your books, and that certainly wasn't the case, so I was quite pleased.
Excellent. It's a good problem to have.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about the Fujimini Adventure series. We've got 3. Is there somebody else coming along? We've got hamsters and penguins.
Yes, the idea was to create sort of a mystical island, Asian island, where groups of animals that represent Asian cultures live. So the penguins are Japanese, the taekwondo bunnies are Korean, and the pandas are Chinese. So I take a protagonist from each of the animal groups and develop a story about them. So in the end, there will be 12 stories. So the first 3 stories are done and published, but number 4 I have in a soft cover already, but I have storyline 12 because I plant clues in the initial book so that later I've sort of introduced the character in an earlier book with a quirky trait, and they become the protagonist in a later story.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
Now, why an island series with an Asian sort of backdrop?
I lived in Korea for well over 4 years, and my husband continued to commute, so we had 7 years experience there. And I worked for GE for 2.5 years in Asia as well, and I have a Chinese daughter. So my inspiration was that I felt there was a lot of great Asian books like Bakugan and Yu-Gi-Oh, but no traditional stories with lovable characters and good morals that had Asian characters. So I felt that I really wanted to develop this series.
Is there, in sharing the stories with kids and families and book signings and stuff, is there an experience that just sort of draws you and says, this is really why, this was the moment, that I was hoping to have by being a children's author?
One of the best moments I had was last summer. I had the opportunity to go to Korea. My husband was still working there, and I looked up some old friends, and they let me come into the international school, and I ran focus groups actually with first graders who were mixed nationalities but mainly Asian, and the response was so overwhelmingly positive that I did the same thing in Japan, in Tokyo, and then I did it another time in Hawaii, where 80% of the people have some Asian blood. So I really think the concept is great, and it's not a lecturing concept in any way. It's more a tribute to some of the special things about their cultures, and I think it was softly played so that if you don't understand the Asian culture, it's still a great adventure story.
Well, you're starting the adventure in 2020, the 21st century. We hear all of this stuff about e-books and electronic media and books that come to life on computers. How does that influence your thinking about the future books? Or does it just, I love my hard copies.
I love ink paper books, love them. And I love the look and the feel and developing them and the illustrations and seeing everything. But I really believe that reading is multimedia, and it's heading that way quickly. So in addition to the ink books, I immediately take the files, and there's iBooks. So I have these 3 books are up for sale in the iBooks as well. And then I'm also developing animated books to go with it, because I do think in the classroom, with, let's say, any classroom, 25 is the minimum number of kids you're going to have on one teacher. And where it's going very quickly is everybody has computers, but increasingly they're going to have the reading tablets, and they're going to be subdivided into groups. You're going to have the ink readers over here, someone working with the teachers here, and the independent kids working multimedia over here. So I think that every author now needs to be thinking about iBooks and e-readers and different ways of doing animation and making reading dynamic.
Now, do you think that by the time you get to book 12, you'll have totally skipped the paper version and go straight to an electronic?
No, I'll never skip the paper because everybody, I think the true bedtime story, the reading, with a parent, it's probably going to always involve touching the book. And so no, I will always have the ink books. But I do believe that probably the bigger sales are going to be on the technology platforms, because it's so accessible. And they were projecting for the iBooks, for example, with the iPads, all of the projections have been just gone way past, and there's no end in sight. And so just like iTunes, the iBooks are just coming. You can't even find them really,
right,
unless, they're so difficult to find. But when Apple goes in that direction and they're pushing the tablets down, they're going to kids, and they're going to have the vivid color ability to move your images around on the page. And so I think that's a huge trend coming in less than 12 months.
Wow. So who's the next character to be featured? Do we have a hint to who he might be in these first three?
The next two, yes. Pink Hamster is very beloved and naive, and she's the sidekick to the rascally green hamster, and she loves birthday cake. So it's about her big birthday surprise. And in the Asian culture, you often get peaches for your birthday. So just a clue, Pink Hamster does not want a peach for her birthday. And the next one after that is called Black Tortoise Samurai and the Dynasty Dragon. So some clues about that are planted in the Pink Hamster book.
That's excellent. That's a great concept. I love that idea because it gives them kids a sense of series, and yet each book stands on its own.
And that was definitely the goal. If you pick up book 3, I wanted to be able to stand whether you understand Asian culture or not, and whether you've read the before books or the after books or not. You should still have a standalone adventure story that you can enjoy. But if you want to do more with games or reading the glossary or getting more books in the series, it just enriches the experience, but it's not a must.
Well, you talked again about the computer piece with Twitter, and that's how I knew you before I met you today. How much of that helps you with celebrating the book or reaching audiences that you didn't have before? And again, with going back to the iBook idea, where people can get the content, right at their fingertips.
I think it's huge, and I think what my strategy was with social media was, even before launching my books, to use social media to build some credibility as an author. So I tried to use social media. I have 2 blogs, for example. One is Once Kids My Company, and one's is Fujimini, and they have a little bit of a different tone. One's more playful, and one's more tips for moms. The same thing with Twitter and Facebook. So going back 6 months, if you ever look at something, it will have content-rich material in there. But now what I'm doing is trying to build communities with the social media, so that before I was kind of standing alone producing content, and now I'm seeing who's like me and connecting to them. And I think that in the end will help sell books because it sells you. And so that's how I see social media as really helping. And for example, today, I took a few pictures, and I'll take more, and they'll go out on here's the things I liked, today. Of course, Mom's Choice is top of the list.
Yay!
But yeah, some of the other things I found interesting, and definitely see if other people will retweet or get interested too. So I think social media, just like we talked about iBooks, is a huge trend that you can't ignore. But you have to, stay current and stay on it, and know who's following you, and build on it. And that's what I'm hoping will help. I want to get in the big independent stores, like here, the World of Books is a great one here in New York, and there's one called Kepler's in California that's near Stanford, and that's where I kind of want the books to be, where people will appreciate that the people that buy there are high quality readers. And in the case of Stanford, there's a big Asian population. They're very sophisticated. So that's hopefully my next step, is to not necessarily splash everywhere, but to be in the stores that I feel I could trade exclusivity and content-rich material. And then I would, again, build that reciprocity on my website and get them some PR. So.
Sounds like you've got it all mapped out just beautifully.
well, it's a map, but every step takes a lot of time
Yeah.
and a lot of determination, and but it's days like today that are very rewarding, and convince you that all the steps are worth it. So, yeah.
Well, we hope you have a great show,
Thank you very much.
and I'm
Yes.
so glad you got to enjoy it.
I-
Join us and share your stories.
I did. This was so different than last year because I had a place, I had a community, and it was really great. And I enjoyed talking to other people who felt like I did last year, and I just think that's so important. So I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Well, great. Have a wonderful show.
Well, thank you very much.
And mahalo.